There we go. Pilot bearing removed with a roll of bread. Neato. Alright, so this is Luke with Thunderhead 289 at YouTube. We're under the T5 swapped Ford F100. It's a 1974 two-wheel drive rig. There's our T5 right there. And anyway, our pilot bearing seized up, and today we're going to do the bread trick to get our pilot bearing out. And basically the idea of this is just to stuff bread in your pilot bearing and keep using a punch or a driver and a hammer and pushing it in, and eventually it will displace that pilot bearing. And anyway, mine is one of those crappy needle bearing styles, and it was starting to go bad. I can kind of hear it, and when I pulled the transmission you could see that it had gotten hot in there despite greasing the thing. So anyway, in spring here I'm going to go ahead and replace it, but of course the only time I can get time to work on stuff is on a Sunday. So basically I can't get a slide hammer and anything from the parts store like O'Reilly's because they're all closed at this hour. So anyway, this is what we've resorted to. Some old fella told me about this years ago, and I figured I'd just give it a shot. So it's going to be pretty hard for me here. It's just me to hold the camera, or in this case the phone. So we're just going to keep going away at this thing, and it is pretty tedious, but pretty much we got one whole roll here from Casey's stuffed into this pilot bearing here, and it's starting to come out around the edges. So we're just going to keep going and check back when we get her knocked out. But all right, we got the better part of the roll in there now. As you can see, she's coming out nicely at this point. So one thing I'm seeing here that a guy would want to keep in mind is, see, I got kind of a depth setting on my pilot bearing driver. But if you were using a punch and you went all the way down through this and started hitting your crank, you know, obviously that's bad. You could crack your crank, you know, a lot of bad stuff there. So I'm seeing that that's something that you would really want to keep in mind when you're packing this in. So basically I don't go all the way till my driver's seated. I just go a little ways and then I'll stop and pack more bread in, because obviously as we displace that volume with the pilot bearing with the bread, you know, that bread's going down, so we have to add more to keep with the same force here. But this is the type of stuff that really reminds me why it's probably good that I live in a trailer park. All right. Man, she is right there. There we go. Pilot bearing removed with a roll of bread. Neato. Check that out. That is pretty interesting. Shouldn't be too bad to scrape out. Get in there with a screwdriver and just kind of wet it down. It'll probably disintegrate pretty good. Whew. Anyway, that was a lot of hammer swinging, so we'll get this changed around, get our new pilot bearing in, and get our T5 back in, and we'll be good to go. So, Thunderhead 289 signing off.